Welcome back to Ironsworn, Rime the Frostmaiden. This is episode 23. The tip I want to share today is talking about the common wisdom of never split the party. This is a trope in role-playing games that you should never split the party because it's going to lead to disaster. I want to encourage you as a GM to let the party split and sometimes to facilitate that happening. There can be a lot of really neat dramatic opportunities flashing between scenes when you choose to cut away from one scene where the tension is heightened and there's drama, and then go to another scene where the other group of PCs are. It's okay to split the party. Go ahead, do that, allow the players to do that. You may need to tell them on a meta level, like, it's okay, you guys, you're not going to instantly die, because that's what they're worried about. They're constantly concerned that, oh, this game is designed for, say, 6-player characters, and if we only have 3, we're going to die. You can tell them, no, the world is as it is. You can adjust as needed. So it's all right. Split the party. It can lead to really interesting dramatic events. Last episode, Karl and Half and Brigid traveled across the foothills of the spine of the world in search of a cackling chasm where there were some gnolls who had supposedly imprisoned a Goliath who knew where their father, Audun, was kept. They entered the cackling chasm and encountered the leader of the gnolls, fought and defeated him, and then found a cage where Goliath was kept. They met this Goliath, Eglath, and freed him, and have now escaped the cackling chasm. In doing so, Eglath has said that he will tell them where Audun is if they agree to help him with some future task. Unfortunately, Karl rolled a miss on our swear and iron vow, so Eglath is going to ask them right now to come with him across the spine of the world to Sky Tower Shelter, his home where his clan lives. This is going to start off as a dangerous vow to help Eglath. It's a little bit nebulous what we need to do exactly. Nonetheless, we're going to commit to helping him. And now we need to cross the spine of the world from Cackling Chasm to Sky Tower Shelter. This is going to be undertake a journey that is dangerous. We don't have any bonuses to this, so we're just rolling wits. And that is a strong hit. So even though they are traveling across this dangerous part of the mountains, they get to mark progress, and we'll see what encounter they have. Rounding an outcropping of rock and seeing a snowdrift, a little creature sprouts from behind it and hurls a tiny snowball at Karl. It puffs against his cheek, and he looks down at this tiny creature that capers and then offers him a tiny berry. Karl reaches down, accepts the berry, and the little elemental creature does a little capering and then scampers off. That was an unusual waypoint, but that's where we got. Karl would really like to spend some time talking to Eglath and getting to know him a little bit better. Eglath is quite stoic, not particularly talkative. I think this is going to be a compel for Karl to get Eglath to open up. They have helped Eglath. They freed him from the cackling chasm where the gnolls had kept him, so I think we're going to have a bonus to this. And Half, of course, is always friendly and encouraging and helps Karl, and they get a strong hit, which is great. That gives us a little bit of momentum, and they're able to get Eglath to open up a little bit. And the important things that Eglath tells them are about his clan and also about Icewind Dale. The 4 of them kind of trade stories here as they're traveling through the mountains. Eglath says, "My people have suffered greatly from the constant winter. Although we are resistant to the cold, our game has dwindled. We cannot much survive this long winter." Karl nods. He's like, yeah, I don't know. We've gotten a little bit of information. We heard from a soothsayer that it's due to Arl, and Arl is using some sort of magical source that's frozen under a glacier. But we don't know. I mean, it's terrible, but it's also, I don't know if we can do anything about it. Karl at this point is still a more or less reluctant hero. He's not thinking that he can defeat a god and, overcome the Rime of the Frostmaiden. So they have some information, but nonetheless, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're intending to deal with this uber problem. Eglath says, my people are the Akhenathi, and the Thunla Kalagala clan have been feuding for many years. I hope that we can resolve such a feud. Certainly facing this constant winter, we must band together. And Karl nods understandingly, and he also turns to Brigid at some point during this journey and gets more information from her. We've already heard Brigid's story. It's mostly confused. I like the idea that Brigid maybe picked up some twinklings of magic from Ravison, having been enchanted by Ravison for such a long time. I like the idea of Brigid maybe having a few flashes of insight or memory into what's happening around Icewind Dale. Brigid says, I see in the mountains a griffin and a ball and the Goliaths, and there's some problem between them. All right, we're gonna get Eglath home. But Eglath, what if something happens to you? Can you tell us where our father is or where you saw him? We swore a vow, we will help you. But if something happens to you, we would not know where our father is. Can you please tell us where he is? Since Karl got a strong hit on that compel, Eglath nods and he says, I was imprisoned in the great prison of Revel's End, and there I met your father. He was in the cell with me, and he told me many stories of his past. This is stunning news to Karl, and he's like, wait, what? Our father's in prison? What happened? Why? Eglath shakes his head, says, I know not. They accused him of trespassing and other crimes, but Audun says that he used to work for a group called the Arcane Brotherhood, and he was afraid that they were now hunting him. Karl and Brigid look to each other and they're like, what? Our father was, no, he was a forester. He wasn't a member of any brotherhood. What in the world is happening here? This is completely revelatory, absolutely blowing their minds. They sat down and sit with these thoughts for a while, and then the next day continue to try to cross the mountains. Incredible. Another strong hit on Undertake a Journey. That is fantastic. And there's a match, which is great. Our supply is a little bit low. I think that they come across a stand of woods, and Karl and Half and Brigid are able to cut some of the branches here and resupply their firewood. So we're going to do a resupply move. This is forestry, so I'm going to give Karl his bonus to that. That's a strong hit. Love it. We get +2 supply. So on that strong hit and a match, we get to resupply. We mark a waypoint. We're doing surprisingly well crossing the mountains from the Cackling Chasm to Sky Tower Shelter. The mountains are dangerous, and I did not expect we would do very well with them. On our next Undertake a Journey, that is a weak hit, which means that we managed to mark progress, but we mark down some supply, and we also have an encounter. The 4 of them round a bend and then see this terrible, monstrous creature lurking behind a snowdrift. It turns and spots them, and without any hesitation, charges. We're going to resolve this as a battle. Just rolling iron with Half's help here, and amazing. We get a strong hit. We do battle with this ice troll, but there's 4 of us and only 1 of him. And even though as Karl and Half and Brigid and Eglath attack this thing, it starts healing up. Eglath says, burn it, burn it. And Half lights a torch. And as Karl and Brigid cut into it, Half moves in with his torch and sears the wounds, and eventually this ice troll is destroyed. We'll take the momentum from a strong hit and continue on our journey. Another weak hit means we get to mark progress, but with some supply suffered, and more importantly, we get another encounter. The 4 of them are crawling over some boulders. Karl turns to Eglath and says, are you sure this is the right way? And Eglath says, yes, my people's place I know very well. As they scramble over some boulders, a couple of humans who have no cold weather gear on and this sort of crazed look in their eyes spot them. One of them whips back a flail, and then they charge. We're going to resolve this as a battle as well, with half helping Karl. Incredible. Another strong hit. We are just rolling really well today. Even though the four of them are scrabbling over these boulders, these berserkers come at them, and they are absolutely mad. They are clearly frostbitten, but they don't seem driven by hunger. They don't even initiate any conversation. They just attack. Karl and Half and Brigid and Eglath lay into them and finally knock them out. Karl's looking around like, what is wrong with these people? And Eglath says, I have heard tales of such folk, that they are possessed by Arl. Karl searches the bodies to try to figure out what is here, and also maybe they can get some scant supplies from them. We're going to try to resupply from these guys. All right, we'll get a little bit of supply, but suffer some momentum. That makes sense because these berserkers don't have a lot on them, so it takes some time to sort through them. But included in their gear are a few odd things. Each of them has a small shard of black glass-like substance, and Karl has seen some of this around and about before. He doesn't know what it is, but it gives off sort of a chill, so he's not going to take that. But also one of them has a ring that has a tiny six-pointed snowflake on it, which is the symbol of Arl, the Frostmaiden. These guys seem to be worshippers of Arl or something. They're not quite sure. You know what? Let's do a gather information to see if we can put together what's going on here. Okay, on a miss, they have no idea what's going on. Karl gets a little bit worried about this. He's going to take a hit to his momentum as they waste a lot of time just trying to figure out what's going on with these berserkers, but he isn't able to figure it out, and they continue on to Sky Tower Shelter. As they do so, Eglath looks up and says, there, the home of my people, and we are going to reach our destination. That is a strong hit. The four of them approach Sky Tower Shelter, and Eglath makes some kind of signal that indicates to the goliaths that we are friendlies. 6 griffins circle above you, shrieking at your approach. They descend until they're a few hundred feet, but come no closer. At the end of the entranceway is a 10-foot-tall barricade made of wood and stone, set with a crude gate made of thick lumber and festooned with metal blades. Gaps in the gate allow you to see an unusually tall figure in hide armor standing 10 feet behind it and clutching a great axe. Beyond this figure is a higher ledge with 5 equally towering figures standing atop it. Eglath says something to the towering figure. There are cheers that come up. The gate opens and they welcome the 4 of them into Sky Tower Shelter. Eglath introduces Karl and Half and Brigid to his chieftain, Arn Rockfist Akhenathi. Arn looks them up and down. Eglath says, Arn, they rescued me. I was taken prisoner by first dwarves and then gnolls. But these 3, they came and they saved me. And they have sworn a vow to help me. What can I do to bring honor to the clan? Arn kind of appraises the 3 of them and then says, many summers ago, the children of Sky Tower challenged the children of Wormdoom to a game of goat ball. One of the children of Wormdoom, angered at being knocked off her perch, threw the ball at one of our griffins and struck it in the head. It wounded her in return. The game was called off. Days later, hunters from Wormdoom climbed our mountain and slew the griffin in its nest. A grave insult. We have been at war ever since. And Karl is looking around. He's like, okay, so Eglath, if I help resolve the conflict between the 2 clans, will that discharge my duty to you for telling me about my father? Eglath says, indeed, Karl, that would be most appreciated. We're going to complete our journey. We are going to mark some progress on helping Eglath because now we know what we need to do. We're also going to make a little bit of progress on finding Audun because we know now that he's in Revel's End, the prison here in Icewind Dale. Karl and Half and Brigid are going to spend some time here. They're going to talk to people and figure out what the problem is with the Thunakalaga clan and their feud, and if there's what can we do about this? It's been happening for a long time. Karl's a little bit stymied as to where we need to go. The three of them go through the caves, and Eglath introduces them to everyone. People are initially a bit standoffish, but once Eglath explains the situation, they are welcoming and on board. And we're going to do a compel to see what we can learn from these Goliaths. Half is being friendly and talkative as always, and that gives us a weak hit. So what we find out is that there is this bad blood between the two tribes, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge to try to get them to work together. But it's possible that the Thunlakalaga clan has something that Karl can do to make them soften up. It sounds like they're a little more welcoming and friendly, frankly, than the Sky Tower. They get the impression if they didn't have Eglath coming to Sky Tower, that they would have been turned away very rudely. These Goliaths are not initially very welcoming. They also learn that Kaniaka Stormcrow Akanathi, who is the chief's mother, has recently developed some blindness. There is apparently an herb located somewhere in the mountains here that could help with the blindness, but none of the Goliaths have been able to find it. They've sent a couple of parties out without success. Karl, therefore, realizing that he needs a little bit of an edge here to try to bring the clans together, is going to swear an iron vow to find this herb and help this matronly woman. Karl is going to swear an iron vow to cure Kianaka's blindness. We're going to call this just a troublesome vow. Half is helping him as usual. We get a weak hit, which is okay. What Karl is going to do, he doesn't know where to find this herb to help Kianaka. So he's going to round up with Brigid and Half. He says, all right, Half, Brigid and I are going to go out into the mountains to try to find this herb. You stay here and keep talking with the folk, get to be friendly with them, so that when we come back, hopefully everything will be okay. Karl and Brigid head out into the mountains around the spine of the world, and they're going to try to find this herb to help Kianaka's blindness. The first thing that they're going to do is just a single undertake a journey to get out into the mountains. Obviously, the herb isn't around Sky Tower shelter, so they've got to go further into the mountains to find it. Fortunately, that is a strong hit. They manage to navigate the mountains, and maybe they find a little bit of a area where the storms don't come through. It's kind of protected by the winds, and there's a few trees and plants that grow here. We're going to mark some progress on finding this thing. Now they're going to spend some time looking around, trying to find this plant with gather information. We're going to leverage Karl's Wayfinder ability to do this. Fantastic. Amazing. That's a strong hit. Rolling just really well today. That gives us momentum, and they managed to find this herb that the Goliaths had some hard time finding. I think that the thing that makes the most sense is that it's like under a rock and like down low. The Goliaths are all very tall and they're kind of looking up into the trees and on the branches. So Karl and Brigid kind of get down, find this herb that was described to them, dig it up, and now they've got it. They've got to get it back to Sky Tower shelter. We're going to do another undertake a journey to get back to the shelter. Incredible. Another strong hit. We get some momentum from our Wayfinder, and we're going to go ahead and mark some more progress on curing Kianaka because they successfully get back. They present her with the herb. Half has been talking about them. They've been gone for just a few hours, not like days and days. And we're going to see if we can fulfill this vow. Well, on a weak hit, we successfully get the herb back to Kianaka. But as it turns out, there's something more that needs to be done here. The question is, should we swear another vow to continue to try to help this clan, or should we just press on? Karl thinks that he needs to get these folk on his side. So he delivers the herb. Kianaka says, oh, good. Oh, but it's too mature. It doesn't have the flowers. Karl sighs. He's like, okay, so we're going to cut down our progress bar. I think I'll keep 3 progress. I'm going to bump this up to a dangerous vow now. We're going to head back out to the spine of the world. This time he's going to go ahead and bring Half. Half has been talking to the Goliaths and getting their stories and making friends. But going further afield, I think Karl thinks that he needs to have the whole group together. we're going to run this as a scene challenge. This is something we haven't done before, but a scene challenge has a progress bar of 10 points. And there's also a challenge bar, which we're going to set at 4. Whenever you get a miss, the challenge bar advances and you don't advance your progress bar. When you get a strong hit, then you advance your progress bar. This is a way to basically do an extended sort of contention thing. So more than just undertake a journey, this is indicating that they're undertaking a journey that has something that's competing against them. Maybe the weather, they see a storm blowing in that they need to get out and into the mountains before the storm hits. The default for a scene is dangerous. We don't have any particular advantage in this scene, and we're going to make progress by facing danger. First, though, Karl is going to try to secure an advantage by carefully assessing the lay of the land using his Wayfinder. That is a strong hit, which gives us momentum as well as a bonus on our next hit, which is going to be face danger. This is going to be with edge as they're crawling their way across mountain precipices to try to find flower versions of this herb. All right, on a weak hit, they do get to mark progress, but there is also progress marked on the challenge. They encounter a delay. Let's roll on the wilderness encounters. This is a D20, so we're going to roll a D100 and divide by 5. That is a 10, which is bad news for us. We already sort of had this encounter, but in more favorable circumstances. Karl and Half and Brigid are climbing through the mountains and trying to get ahead of the storm, and they look up and see a massive white dragon on the wing cruising around on the thermals above the mountains here, obviously scoping for some kind of prey. The three of them flatten themselves against the side of the mountain, and the dragon passes on, but that definitely delayed them a bit. Now Karl is going to kind of get the lay of the land and scope things out and use his wits to face danger. Another weak hit, which could be worse, but another delay happens. Let's roll on the encounter table. 5 gives us a D20 roll of 1, which is a Yeti. We have another D6 roll here to find out what kind of Yeti. Let's roll it. 1D4 Yeti encounter us in the mountains, which is bad. The augur has this dice roller here. We haven't used it yet, but for a D4, we've got to use the D4. 2 Yeti. All right, well, we encounter these Yeti in the mountains, and that means it's a fight. 2 Yeti are pretty serious, so we're going to run this as a full combat with Enter the Fray. We get a strong hit, which gives us momentum, and we have initiative, which is fantastic. These Yeti are formidable. There are 2 of them, and this is a pretty substantial challenge for the 3 heroes here. I think given the windy conditions, there's no way that Karl is going to be able to use his bow. So he and Brigid and Half yell and charge in with axes and spear flying. We get a weak hit, which means we inflict our harm, but we lose the initiative. The 3 of them charge in, but these 2 Yeti reach out with their claws and smack them back, putting them back on the defensive. Now they have to clash. Fortunately, Half gives us a bonus to this, so we're going to roll iron. That is a strong hit on our clash. Love it. Inflict your harm. We're going to inflict an additional harm because our momentum is already all the way up. And we have initiative again, which means we can strike. A weak hit means we inflict our harm, but then lose the initiative. We just keep going back and forth with these Yeti. Fortunately, haven't gotten hit by them yet. Let's do a clash. We get a weak hit on a clash, which means we do get to inflict our harm, but unfortunately, Karl takes some injury. These are formidable foes, so they do 3 health of damage, which is pretty rough. Nonetheless, he steals himself and comes back in with the axe, doing an uppercut to the Yeti, trying to finish the fight here. We're going to try to turn the tide and take the initiative. We're going to add a +1 on this on our strike. We've got to try to end this fight. That is a weak hit, but I'm going to go ahead and burn the momentum to get a strong hit so that we can end the fight. Also a strong hit, so in spite of these 2 formidable Yeti attacking the 3 of them, Karl and Half and Brigid just hack into them. I think with all the experience that Karl and Half especially have gotten, and Brigid's no wilting flower, they've managed to turn into a pretty formidable fighting force. We defeat the Yeti and resume our attempt to go through the mountains before this blizzard sets in. After that fight, I'm going to go ahead and try to secure an advantage here, trying to scope out the mountains and get a sense of where we are. A strong hit gives us 2 momentum and a +1 on our next roll, which is going to be face danger. We're going to use edge on this, trying to climb through the mountains. Yet another weak hit, and we do mark progress, but our mountain storm comes even closer. We are close to finishing this scene, but have some trouble doing so. We're going to roll on our encounter table. An 89 rounded gives us a result of 18, which is humans. Doesn't sound so bad. We're going to go ahead and call these some of the Reghead nomads. The members of the tribe of the elk, about a dozen of them, are up here in the mountains trying to find some provisions for their tribe. Karl and Half and Brigid come across them and hail them. The nomads are fortunately indifferent, so they sit and chat and maybe trade some stories. Let's do a compel here to see if we can get these nomads to share us some information. Half is with us, fortunately, and we get a strong hit, which will bolster our momentum. And these elk tribe nomads are actually pretty positively disposed towards us. And they don't share anything particularly useful. One of them says that if you eat the heart of a ice troll, that you gain resistance to cold. Well, they already fought an ice troll a bit ago. Obviously didn't think about eating its heart. Karl's a little bit suspicious about this. Nonetheless, they chat with the nomads for a little bit and then press on, trying to get through the mountains here before the storm hits. Once again, this is going to be a face danger with edge. Yet another weak hit, so we mark progress, but our tracker also marks progress. Since our tracker has filled up to 4 bars, now we have to roll to end the scene. On a strong hit, you achieve your goal unconditionally. They make it through the mountains before the storm comes. We are going to mark progress on curing Kianaka's blindness because we have finally found a little protected valley where things are incredibly still in bloom. These must be magical or hardened against winter in some way, because obviously it's been a year since last spring. These things shouldn't be blooming. Now that they've found this little protected dell before the storm kicks in, we are going to gather information and taking our time exploring the area to use our Wayfinder. That's a strong hit, which gives us 2 momentum. We also get a bonus from Wayfinder. We find the flower. We go ahead and pluck it. They're going to settle out here and camp during the storm. A strong hit on make camp means we can heal up a little bit. Karl is a bit injured and also still has kind of a hit to his spirit. Everyone gets a little bit of recuperation as they wait out the storm and then head back into the mountains to try to get back to Sky Tower Shelter. The next day, since they know how they got here through the mountains, we're going to do a simple undertake a journey for them. That's a strong hit, so they make it back to Sky Tower Shelter without further incident. They now bring the flower back to Kianaka. We're going to mark progress on that. And we're going to see if now we can fulfill this vow. That is a strong hit. We mark the experience, and now we have helped out the Akhenathi clan. Karl is going to try to make a bond with them. He has helped save Eglath. He has helped Kianaka with her blindness. He thinks that this definitely counts for getting a connection with these folk. Half, having spent some time chit-chatting, gives us a bonus. All right, that's a miss, but since we just fulfilled a vow to them, we can re-roll any dice. I think I'm going to re-roll this 9. That doesn't help, but I can burn momentum as well. So, God, that's rough, which gives us a weak hit at least. They ask something more, which is to resolve the feud with the other Goliath clan. That's fine. That's pretty much what our plan had been to do all along, which means that we need to head to Wormdoom Crag and talk with the other Goliath clan, which we will do next time. Thanks for watching.